Well. The last thing I wanted from this fight was a controversy. But when you have two high-level fighters who make very few mistakes, it's always going to be a close call for some. And first things first, this was a high-level matchup. The skill level and the adjustments made by both throughout the whole fight was absolutely insane. Now, Beterbiev won the fight by majority decision, and I know a lot of people raised their eyebrows at those scorecards, especially the 116-112 card. And now, I'm probably going to send some of you into a meltdown, but that was actually my original scorecard when I watched the fight last night. However, after rewatching the fight without commentary, I scored it 115-113 in favour of Beterbiev just. I could easily see this fight as a draw as well, and I think it's easy to get caught up in the emotions of fight night, especially if you're leaning towards one fighter. But upon a second and even like a third viewing of watching rounds again, it was clear there was plenty of swing rounds in there. And in the end, it comes down to personal preference and what you value more in those close rounds. Personally, I favoured Beterbiev to get the knockout if you guys watched my prediction on my Patreon. But I did acknowledge that Bivol was more than capable of winning by fighting the way he did. And in fact, I was really impressed how he managed to stay off the ropes and fight from distance for almost all 12 rounds. That said, he did have some tricky moments in there, especially in the championship rounds. But for the most part, this fight was fought from a long range distance, with Beterbiev obviously trying to push the pace, and Bivol trying to control him from the outside with the jab and waiting to set him up with counter combinations. But I think it will be important just to give you my thoughts on how I kind of scored the fight and my thought process behind it. Unfortunately guys, I can't use any screenshots or footage because DAZN have given my channel a strike recently, which I have disputed, but I don't want to risk the channel getting another strike and being at risk of getting terminated, so I will only be using some clips from other sources and photography for this video. I apologise in advance guys. So first up, looking at the first few rounds, I had Bivol taking the first two rounds pretty comfortably, and I gave Beterbiev the third. In the opening rounds, Beterbiev seemed to just be trying to figure out Bivol's rhythm and jab, while also working to control the centre of the ring. And I think Bivol did a great job using his movement and jab to keep Beterbiev off balance, while continually forcing him to constantly reset to try and get through Bivol's defensive setup. From the third round, I felt Beterbiev started to get a bit more aggressive, throwing more punches, and it was still close due to Bivol's control of his jab and movement, which was visibly frustrating Beterbiev, but the aggression and the volume in that round, I have to favour Beterbiev. In round 4, Beterbiev came out stronger again, applying pressure, but Bivol landed cleaner, more effective combinations in this round, catching him in between his jabs. And Bivol's hit and move strategy continued to work well, not letting Beterbiev settle, which is absolutely crucial against a puncher like him. Round 5 was a big swing round in my opinion. I gave it to Beterbiev because he was more consistent with his aggression, pressure and punch volume, while Bivol had moments where he landed some nice clean shots, but Arthur forced him back for most of the round and finished it strong. In round 6, it was another tough one to score, but Bivol had some nice counters again. But Arthur was just more consistent with the pressure and volume, landing clean shots on Bivol in this round. Round 7 may have been the hardest round of the fight to score. Arthur applied most of the pressure and threw most of the punches. However, Bivol landed the more cleaner and more hurtful shots in this round, as he really started to let his hands go and put the combinations together. However, it was here he kind of got a bit too greedy, and Beterbiev was able to land in between his shot and hurt Bivol at this moment. Not by much, but he definitely did buzz him. And after this, Arthur tried to put it on him and put the pressure on. However, if I had to pick someone, I'd have to give it to Bivol in this round. I think just the cleaner punches and the combinations, landing hard and clean on Arthur, was the decisive factor in him getting that round. But I can understand why maybe a judge might swing it in Beterbiev's favour because he managed to hurt him and he finished the round strong. In rounds 8 and 9, Bivol started holding his ground more, took centre of the ring, which seemed to work in his favour actually, and he was landing his jab and counters as well. And Beterbiev did look a bit frustrated here, as he was kind of boxing on the outside more at this point in the fight. Possibly he was taking a breather before gearing up for those later rounds. Round 8 was very close again. Beterbiev was doing some good work from the outside, but it was a bit of a lull from both fighters in that round, so you could really pick that round for either guy. But Beterbiev's consistency just edged it out in that round for me. He was just looked the more active guy in that round. In round 9, however, this was probably Bivol's cleanest round for me in my opinion, alongside rounds 1 and 2. But I think this may have taken quite a lot out of him. And going into those championship rounds, this is where the fight really matters for me. And Beterbiev really upped the pace at this point and was just more consistent overall in these last 3 rounds. I think the bodywork from earlier in the fight was maybe starting to take its toll on Bivol. And, Dmitry did land some nice counters and combinations in these rounds, but Beterbiev was always finishing the round strong, pushing the pace and forcing Bivol back and forcing him to cover up into a high guard. He just had steady aggression and pressure in those rounds, and for me, I think that just beats a single combination or a 1-2.
Did he hurt you? Did you feel? Yeah.
He hurt me, of course, on my block, but his punches is so hard. I felt it through my block also, of course, and he made a good punch for my body once, and the pressure what he gave me, it's also like, I could say it like it's hurting.
Yeah, I think in the end it comes down to 3 or 4 swing rounds, depending what you value more in the fight. This was a contest of very fine margins with hardly any major mistakes from either guy. And, I took a look at the punch stats, but instead of using CompuBox for this video, I'm going to look at the Jabber AI stats, which personally I find to be more accurate. The AI doesn't count punches that hit the guard, arms and shoulders, only clean shots to the head and body. Obviously, looking at the punch stats, Beterbiev was the busier fighter, throwing 440 punches more compared to Bivol's total. And he was just a consistent aggressor throughout the fight, and that's what I saw as well. And when it comes down to high impact punches, which I also saw, Bivol clearly had the advantage, landing 50 compared to Beterbiev's 23, with rounds 4, 7 and 9 being the most impactful for Bivol. However, Beterbiev's consistency across the whole fight is what swung it in his favour for me, and just looking at the stats, I kind of see the same thing, but it's very close. Bivol could have won it if he'd just been that little bit more active and thrown more punches. But in round 7, Beterbiev hurt him mid-exchange, for example, and it's maybe no wonder why Bivol maybe didn't throw as much or was hesitant afterwards to do so. And that's just my take on the fight, guys. I think Bivol fought smart, staying off the ropes, took his chance to counterpunch and set him up for his combinations when he had the opportunity, and it worked. But for me, the consistency and pressure from Beterbiev, the volume of his punches, his willingness to try and push a fight out of this, and even when Bivol had moments of success, Artur was just always right back in his face, finishing the round strong. And I kind of question myself when I look back at my scorecards. I think I was probably a bit harsh when I first watched it, but like I said, I probably got caught up in the emotions. I think I was also getting frustrated with the commentary. They were only really praising anything Bivol did instead of Beterbiev, which kind of maybe made me sway in favour of Beterbiev. When I turned off the commentary and watched it today back again, I started to pick up a lot of the good work Bivol was doing more. And I was starting to see the rounds where you could swing it to either guy. And because of that, I think probably a draw would have been a more fitting result, in my opinion, considering how close it was for that reason. I think we do need to see a rematch if we want to see a definitive winner, though I'm not sure how different that rematch would look. I think it would be quite similar in my opinion, but I'd probably actually favour Bivol in the rematch. I think he's still the younger guy. I just think if he was more active with his punch output in the rematch, but looking to stand his ground a bit more, he would have a brilliant chance of winning that. And also with Beterbiev approaching 40, and while he didn't look that slow tonight, I think Bivol has more tools in his arsenal to win the next fight, but you can never look past the power of Beterbiev, and that's probably why Bivol didn't open up as much. And I'm really frustrated, guys, because like I said, I did want a competitive fight. It's what I got, but I hate it when there's so much debate like this, or two sides in terms of who won, because at the end of the day, I don't really care who won. I just wanted to see a great fight, and in a way we got that. But I think the 116-112 card, in hindsight, probably was a bit harsh, I think. And even though I watched it again and I've watched rounds again, probably a draw was probably the right decision for me. I think they both won about 6 rounds each, even though I did slightly edge Beterbiev just because I preferred some of the work he was doing over Bivol in the fight. That's not to say I don't think Bivol didn't deserve it. I think you could have probably swung it his favour if he was just a bit more active in those championship rounds. I really do think he could have taken this fight. But yeah, that is my thoughts on this undisputed light heavyweight championship. Beterbiev takes the crown. Would you guys like to see the rematch? And let me know your thoughts on the fight below. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.